All right.
Hey, we are live. Welcome to Saturday Night Lockdown on well, I can't name the network. It's Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter. We're everywhere right now. So, like to welcome everybody. And Marcus, thank you for joining us. Marcus Gillette is here with us. Look at that back. I just got to, Marcus, I'm sorry. I just got to do this. Look at how beautiful that is. That is just gorgeous. Wow.
You get a better look at it there.
Out there in Scottsdale.
We are in Scottsdale, Arizona, North Scottsdale. Yeah.
That's amazing, man. So we have Brian Hess on here with us. Corey Calvin. Oh, Corey likes it's the Saturday Night Live set. Took a quick Google search. So gentlemen, we're here to talk about how to grow it while others are losing it. And I can't think of anyone. Glenn is over there sharing, right? Are you inviting people?
Yeah, except that I'm on your page and I hit refresh and I don't see it still, but that's all right.
Here, I will. Hey, there's Octavia McDougall. She's a great friend of mine. Her and her husband are down in Florida. They're good friends of mine. Love those two.
I got it, Ken. I'm good.
Oh, okay. I was just getting ready to text it to you. Jamie Green is on with us. Hey, Jamie, how are you? So people I'm seeing as each day passes, more and more people are, I work from home. So this whole lockdown thing for me is like just another day. It's like I might leave once in a while and go grab some Chipotle or something, but I'm always here, so it doesn't feel too unusual. There is this side of me that likes to push back, so when they tell me I can't do something, now it makes me want to leave. But I don't know, what are you guys experiencing, Marcus?
Well, we have had very little impact on our lifestyle, and as Glenn knows, Ken, most of my wife and I are in the personal development space. Spiritual growth. She's a spiritual medium channel for a collective group of angels known as Theo, and so our business has been a combination of being online, and of course we do a number of live retreats throughout the year, and now we've taken our entire business and we have obviously singularly focused on the digital and the virtual aspect of everything we're doing. Our lifestyle hasn't been impacted at all. Like you, we work out of our home. We have a team that works virtually with us, and we're passionate about what we do for a living. So we're in a state of joy most of the time, and I think for us right now, it's really been about what can we be doing right now, as optimistic and hopeful as inspired as we are about what life is going to be like on the other side of this. The question also is, how can we stay in that state of joy and inspiration and hope now in this moment, and to be able to share that with our community of dedicated spiritual seekers that are always working on themselves and always in a growth mindset. So for us right now, in terms of the personal impact, it's been very minimal, but professionally, we feel a great sense of responsibility to be present, to be providing great, clarifying and inspiring information, and primarily to just be checking in and engaging and staying part of community with all the virtual the virtual events that we're doing, to just remind people what a rich time for growth, what a rich time it is to be inspired, to begin or to complete projects, to clean out, do that spring cleaning, not just in closets or garages, but in our minds and in our hearts and our souls. I mean, really get, equipped now, emotionally, spiritually, and even physically, to take our lives to the next level. So we're feeling really optimistic and hopeful right now.
That's awesome, man. I've said, to several people, like, I feel like this is the planet going, wake up. Anthony DeMello, I was telling Glenn about this book Anthony DeMello wrote I read it years ago called Awareness. And throughout the whole book, he talks about like, just wake up, wake up, wake up. And, you know, I feel like, and I could be wrong. I've been wrong many other times in my life, but, you know, I feel like this is an awakening for the planet. It's an opportunity for everybody to go inside and discover their true greatness and who they really are.
Absolutely, 100%. Our friend Mary Morrissey, we were on the phone with her the other night, and she and her husband Joe Dickey are really dear friends of ours, and she said that this is like one of her employees had said to her, "I think I got this figured out. God decided that we needed a timeout. In fact, we're grounded. We got to go to our rooms because you look at the divisiveness, the wars, the unkindness, all the negativity and the craziness going on our planet right now, and decided,
Yeah.
you guys need a timeout. Go to your rooms right now and think about this. Get into some thinking time right now, right?"
Totally agree, man. Totally agree with that. What do you think, Glenn Morshower?
Well, I'm on the same page with Mark, and it has affected us rather dramatically on this end, not because we're obsessively watching CNN, because we're not, but because the school that I teach here in Dallas on Mondays and Tuesdays for 13 hours each day has had to switch to online classes out of respect to, you know, for everyone's safety. And we've been at it now for 3 weeks, and we've had some great guests, and all of that was facilitated by you emerging onto the scene and being the bridge that got me from being completely unaware to being not quite a Jedi, but at least I can create the illusion that I know what I'm doing. And classes have been wonderful as a result. And we've had the star of our series, Matt Zuckery, on with us this past week, and Tasso Feldman was with us. You were there in the room with us, and my friend Kat, you know, Hill from Nashville, singer-songwriter out of Nashville. Janice Stanfield's been online with us, with you and I. And this program has attracted so many caring hearts, which is why Marcus's name came to mind, because, you know, he genuinely gives a damn about the well-being of this beautiful earth home of ours and about its residents at a deep, caring, non-bullshit level. And that has always held staying power with me. And I admire the people that have that heart set and mindset. And so here we are. But the classes have been very successful. And of course, instead of placing our attention on the things we can't change, we can certainly change our opinion about those things, which changes its effect on us for sure. But the things that are going on outside, there are things that are out of our control. And so the Serenity Prayer, the Serenity Prayer has really moved into the forefront of our experience now, the wisdom to know the difference, where I can affect change and where I can't. And so I'm spending a lot of time thinking about what I can do instead of thinking of all the freedoms that we've lost. I've said to you many times in the last couple of weeks that this is an unprecedented time, specifically of sensory deprivation. That so many things that people have defined themselves by, right? Their identities, and the vast majority of them have been removed. And they were not only removed, they were removed all at once. And that can be understandably overwhelming for a lot of people. Now, in metaphysics, there's a saying that we are not what we do, for if we are what we do, then when we don't, we're not. And I want to repeat that. We are not what we do, for if we are what we do, then when we don't, we're not. So for example, what I do is acting, but acting is not who I am. Because if acting were who I am, I would be SOL right now in a major way, because I'm not acting. All of the studios are shut down. Our TV show is on hold until July. And even my studio has moved to online, but I'm not currently doing any acting. So thank God I don't find my identity in being an actor. So, you know, you and I have held hands and reached out to the world and spoken a lot with possibly shuffling the deck and reconfiguring priority systems, reevaluation. I think it's a time of reprioritization, big time. And maybe it's a time to let go of that job that you've hated all along. And isn't it interesting that the jobs that have been bitched and moaned about by so many people for years, that now most of the people would kill to go back to that job they bitched and moaned about. Yeah. They would kill. If we could snap our fingers and they say, you're back to work first thing in the morning and everybody's safe and the virus has pushed through and there's no danger whatsoever, they would be throwing a frigging party. They would have the biggest smile on their face going back to. So basically, we've experienced a global shift in perspective, right? And unfortunately, it is true that many folks don't appreciate what they have until it's gone. Now, I don't think that's a condition we're sentenced to. Right. I think that's an issue of consciousness. I think that it's really up to us to go ahead and use our God-given gift of imagination to imagine that, you know what? I'm in love with life itself. You know what? I'm in love with my life, just as it is. And here's the part you don't often hear about, and just as it is not. Right? So I'm in love with all the things that aren't so about my life. And anyway, so that's my 2 cents. Excuse me, 2 cents. And I love you guys, and I love being here with you.
I'm grateful you're here, Marcus. I'm what has and so I don't know what you can talk about or want to talk about with the channeling stuff, but what has your wife said about what's the vibe around all that?
Well, the first thing I want to comment on is the sensory deprivation part of this, because I agree with Glenn 100% with everything he just said.
Yeah.
And for me, as a member of a floating center here, where we go into a tank and we have our sensories deprived for an hour or 90 minutes at a time, they're shut down. So I can't do that right now, which kind of pisses me off a little bit. But other than that, I'm fine with the sensory deprivation part of it. And according to, and Glenn, to what you were just saying too, the gratitude for jobs that we may not have thought we enjoyed is one thing, but I think that in our mind, what's happening right now is that there's a complete, an opportunity. Well, there's such a great opportunity right now to be able to look at the relationships in our lives and to, really get honest with ourselves. First of all, with the relationship that we have with ourselves. So this is a rich time for us to be really delving in on the inner planes through meditation, contemplation, however we can get out into nature if that's possible for us, but to really be kind of turning the camera inward right now. And if we have grudges, if we have miscommunications, if we have healing that needs to take place, right now is an amazing time for that. But to your question, Ken, we have the blessing of a group of angels that are looking at humanity right now. And the very first question I asked them in their observation of what's happening on our planet right now, 2 weeks ago today, we did our first COVID-19 interview with Theo. And what they said, the first question I asked them, how do you see our planet right now? And they said, we see absolutely no borders. There's no boundaries. There's no separation of any kind whatsoever. And then it took off from there. And throughout the course of this conversation and subsequent conversations that we've had with them many times since then, the gifts that are present right now are unprecedented. And in fact, in our lifetime, we've never had the opportunity to be able to in the now, because it's all about being in the present moment, as both of you and all of your listeners know. All of our needs and desires are met right now in the present moment. We have all the food we need. We have the shelter we need. We may not be able to hug and kiss the people in our lives that we love, but we have their love nonetheless, because there's no boundaries. There is no need to just be physically present with one another to love on each other. So, the gifts about this, or the gifts from this, are not just what's on the other side of it, but also what is within each of every one of us in this present moment right now. Now, to go to the other side of it for a minute, we're going to have a different world. We're going to have a world that needed, back to Mary Morrissey's comment about God grounding us and putting us in our rooms for a while. The bottom line is, and what Theo's been confirming over and over and over again, is this is an unprecedented time. Sheila wrote a book back in 1988 called The Fifth Dimension, Channels to a New Reality, which spoke to this time specifically that we're living in. The last couple of years, they've been talking about 2020 being the most profound experience, most profound year that we're going to experience in our lifetimes, and it's happening right now. They did say to us the other night, we didn't tell you how it was going to happen, but this is what we were talking about.
Wow.
So on the other side of this is a different world. It's a world that we're more globally connected in myriad ways, not just technologically. The artists and the scientists are the ones that are now going to be leading our world into this new world. And I don't like the term new world order, any of that kind of stuff at all. This is just in each and every person's heart that we're experiencing right now in the moment, and then projecting out on the other side of this, we're going to see a world with more compassion, more kindness, more centeredness, people more connected to their soul, people that are going to be more kind and more loving. And I think this divisiveness that we've been experiencing, and I even think this nationalist thing that's been going on around the entire globe and in different parts of the world right now is going to be a thing of the past. We are connected globally, and that's been the primary message, is that this is all absolutely necessary for us to live in a world that we all deserve and desire to live in on the other side of this. And is it going to happen immediately? Of course not, but it's going to definitely be a process that's begun now, a new world, if you will, a new energy that's being created as we speak right in this moment. And it's there's a lot of blessings in it.
Man, I love that. I've said many, many times, I mean, you can quote the Mother Teresa, but you can't fight hatred with hatred. It just doesn't work. And there's so much divisiveness. Am I saying that right? There's some, and I see that one of my recent interviews for my show just popped on, Nazira Jamal. And we talked about this because she grew up in the Muslim culture, and I said, like, there's just so many different, people are like, oh, you're that, then I'm gonna hate you because you're not like me. And it's like, man, you can't, when you're locked down in your house, it's kind of hard to like act on that stuff. You know what I mean? Like you need to, there has to come a point where you got to like look beyond where you are and see what is possible. And I think this has given us that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. The boundaries and the judgments are, I mean, if we could just from this time convert judgment into compassion, we're going to be in a beautiful place on the other side of this.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. Totally agree with that.
What you mentioned, Marcus, it's been that way all along. What hasn't been that way is our practicing of it.
Right.
It's always been that way, but we've just given in Texas, we would say we just had a big old 2x4 just hit us upside the head.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And whatever it takes, right, Glenn? 220, 221. I mean, whatever it takes, man.
Whatever it takes. Yep. Indeed.
Wow.
To quote Michael Keaton from Mr. Mom. I just want to throw a little Michael Keaton, Mr. Mom into this conversation, right? 220, 221, whatever it takes. But, we have had the invitation all the time there, Glenn, as you say, but we haven't had the awareness to accept it. And I think that's what's happening right now.
So, Marcus, what would you say tonight to, we made adjustments on our tuition this month for the school, and I won't go over the details, but it was based on what is going on, and everyone's on the honor system, and it's really, really good, and it is allowing us to sustain the family, which I'm most thankful for. But what would you say to those people who are living paycheck to paycheck, or at least that have been in the past, and they maybe, let's say, a lot of the people in the restaurant industry who have lost their jobs, and they really didn't have a savings set aside, and so they are experiencing financial panic? What would your thoughts be to share with them? And I say thoughts more than advice, but could you offer some thoughts of encouragement to those people?
Sure.
Because we've got a lot of folks that are that way in my school, and they've heard from me about it, but I want them to hear to someone whose opinion I value tremendously.
Well, I appreciate that question. We too, like you have, Glenn, have reduced the price of in fact, in some cases up to 67%. We've reduced the price of our online community programs and mentoring programs with a specific desire and intention of bringing people together and not having the finances be a roadblock. So we've reduced things significantly. But specifically to your question, again, back to the statement that I made earlier, have all of our needs and desires been met in this very moment? And in the moment, there's no fear, right? Those people on the edge right now are for Sheila and I, those are the people we feel the most, just the most for. Obviously, we're very blessed that we're not quite in that position, of course, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of people out there that are. So it's staying in the present moment. It's staying in that vibration of love, really focusing on the vibration of love right now, and accessing every resource that we have, right? You can get into this land of facts, this linear, 3D thing that's going on in people's lives, and take advantage of everything that's out there for you right now. Absolutely. Whatever we can tap into that the government is offering us, absolutely tap into that. Stay really connected to the people that you love. Stay connected. I think communication is a huge part of this. I think that during this time, whatever it is that you can do to be working and bettering yourself and feeling the good feeling that comes from that, as it relates to at least knowing that you're not wasting this time. This is time that is really, really rich for personal development, for increased financial awareness and education. Get the facts. Just get the facts right now. I was on Sheila and I were on a training, a 2-day retreat last week virtually with Stedman Graham, who is in quarantine right now. And what Stedman was talking to in the interview was get the information, get the facts. That's the best thing that you can do right now, and in any time of your life, obviously, too. Get the facts, get the information, know what it is that you're working with here, because there's a lot of resources out there also that people may not even be aware of. When we do an inventory of our life, and we look at everything that's going on in the outer world, and then we take this inventory of what's happening in our inner world, but we also take an inventory in our personal financial world. What resources do we have right now if we need to tap into them that are available to us? So it's just heightening our awareness about everything, trying to stay out of, as you guys both know, fear and worrying about the fears that we're feeling is praying for what we don't want. So the worst thing we can do right now is to move into a place of fear, move into that place of lack, move into that place of, oh my God, how am I going to get through this? Because at the end of the day, we're going to get through this, and we're going to get through it together, and we're going to be stronger, and we're going to have I think a fuller heart when we get on the other side of this.
Beautifully said.
I started my business back in 2007, and what was weird is just before I started the business, I was the top salesman in a company selling basement waterproofing stuff, and it was a great high 6-figure income, but it was I hated it. Quite frankly, I hated it. And then the sales manager was like smoking weed in a company vehicle, and I called him out on it and got fired the next day. And I was the top guy. And I remember driving home thinking, of course I wanted to blame them and, all of that. And I was really upset, but it kind of forced me into having to make a huge shift in my life and start this company where I had been freelancing for years. And it was the greatest thing that could have ever happened. It was the greatest gift that could have ever happened was being forced to start my business. And so, I think that there's going to be a lot of businesses. I already know of many businesses that are gone. They're out. They're done. They're over. They're not coming back from this. And that sucks. And I know it sucks for them in the moment right now. Like if they play that tape over and over and over of what might have been, right? What's the old saying? No sadder words from tongue nor pen, but these 4 words, what might have been. And it's like, it's, if we can say, okay, there is a lesson in here somewhere, and we can go inside and listen. Cause I said this last night, I think, or the night before. I said, I've always heard that praying, which a lot of people are praying right now, right? Praying is talking to God. Meditation is listening to God. Like,
exactly.
Just shh. Just shush and listen. Just listen. The answers will come.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point too, what's the side hustle that we always wanted to make into our business, right? What's the passion that we've always had that we have thought, oh well, that's for somebody else. The not enoughness's, the who me thing, right? I mean, that's for somebody else. People look at you or at Glenn or what my wife does, and they say that's for somebody else. I can't do that. Yes, you in fact can do that. And the reality is that there's a lot of people out there with desires and dreams in their hearts that they just haven't summoned the courage, I think, to take that first step towards creating a life out of that, a lifestyle, a business out of that, right? And so now's the time also for everybody to take a look at whatever you're doing professionally. Hey, look, we're going to be online for a few months now. This isn't going to be over in a month. It's not going to be over in 2 months. And you guys all know that, and your listeners do as well. Bottom line is, let's take advantage of this time. Let's capitalize. I don't even like the word taking advantage. Let's capitalize. Let's use this time in a way to dig into what our passion really is and begin to just take the little baby steps, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, start creating maybe something online that we can share. I mean, you guys have been doing the same thing we've been doing, connecting with old friends and coming on Zoom cocktail hours and things like that. And we've been having a blast reconnecting with people. But what about taking whatever it is we do for professionally and start to work in a way that we can start to learn the technology, start to learn the all of the resources that are available to us, which are immense, to put our gift, our genius out to the world.
Right.
Because each one of us has a special gift that we can be expressed, and each one of us has a gift that only we have. Nobody else has that gift. And so if we were able to access that, to bring that out, begin to share that with the world, or take the business that we're in right now, knowing that we're going to be together online for a few months now. And by the way, the world's going to change. We're going to be more virtual when this is all over with as well, because we're getting comfortable with it. We're getting used to it. We know we can stay connected with it, right? So what do you love? What would you love to do? Ask that question to yourself every day as you're beginning to formulate exactly how it is you want to spend the rest of your life and how this time can be utilized to put you on the right path to do so.
I love that, man. Looks like Glenn got a phone call.
Well, he's much more popular, Ken, than you and I are, by the way.
I know. He's going to yell at us for talking about him while he's on the phone.
Hey, Glenn, say hi to Kara for me, will you? I'm assuming he's talking to his wife. Say hi to Kara for me.
No, I'm actually talking to a guest because I know that you didn't have a long time. So I'm working as a stage coordinator. I'm a bit of a producer here. And I was talking to my friend Susan Knight, but only for about 15 seconds to let her know she will be joining us. This is a very entrepreneurial-minded friend of mine from Salt Lake City. And, it seems that is what, gentlemen, and those of you who are listening out there, and Marcus, I've been respectfully shutting my yapper because I know your time is limited and I wanted people to fully experience you. But we are being invited in a not so subtle way into entrepreneurship. This is a time to put our thinking caps on, and a big word that seems to be moving to the front lines over the last few weeks is resourcefulness, right? Because this is a time for that too. And there are things that can and will be, I want to repeat that, can and will be discovered during this time of influence. Sorry. Does that help better?
Well, the microphone was hanging down. You were a little.
I'm sorry. I took it off so that I could hear Susan. But now I lost my train of thought. I was talking about that being invited into this space.
Yeah.
That there are many. It's not important that I come up with a percentage, but there are many people that are a little resistant and a little stubborn, and sometimes it takes more extreme measures. And thankfully, the cosmos recognizes that. I believe that we live within a very intelligent system, and I believe that system does not need to check in for my precious approval to do what it needs to do. I really am into understanding that I am a part of this system that was intended to be here. And I want to have a cooperative relationship, and I do have a cooperative relationship rather than one that opposes it or an adversarial relationship. Turns out, having done much research, turns out that having an adversarial relationship to what the cosmos has in mind, not a great game plan.
No, resisting what is just doesn't really work very well, at least in my personal 63-year human experience. And according to the Dalai Lama, the greatest source of all pain and suffering is resisting what is. This is what it is right now, gang, right? This is
right.
It. I mean, what are you going to do? Resisting this or going into a funk or, saying, well, I just got to kind of, hunker down until this thing's over with. God, use this rich time, this rich opportunity. Just come out on this in a better place. And like you said, Glenn, we are being invited to become entrepreneurs as well. And I maybe we've got, hundreds of thousands or millions of people that come out of this with a little side business that ultimately becomes their passion and their dream, things they've been thinking about wanting to do for years. And now all of a sudden, we have the opportunity to begin to create it, begin to think about it, because this is a time of thinking, as well as, to Ken's point, meditating. If you're not a meditator, and I know you guys are both meditators, we've been meditating for decades, and without a daily meditation, I'm off my center if I don't wake up and meditate every morning, right? So I would encourage everybody to learn how to meditate. I mean, there's so much free stuff out there, and great apps, and so much stuff online and YouTube. I mean, just if you've never meditated, just take this time to learn how to meditate, and that could change everything for you.
Ken, share with Marcus how you feel about meditation and the importance of it in your life.
Well, I got sober 17 and a half years ago by the grace of God and some kind of a miracle. And I about a year into it, I was introduced to meditation. I'm like, well, how do you meditate? And I was told there's no, you don't learn, you just do. And, well, what's that mean? Well, you just sit, focus on your in breath. I focus on the in breath and the out breath coming out. And, I start with 3 big, deep breaths in, and then I and it just depends on, sometimes I meditate to just meditate. Sometimes I'll meditate to manifest something, and it always works. It doesn't always work immediately. Right. And that's the thing that a lot of people miss, is it's like, and it took me a long time, right? So it's been 16 plus years that I've been doing it. Sounds like you've been at it longer than I have. I got it there, Glenn.
Okay.
So, but I will be late for a meeting before I miss meditation in the morning.
Yeah. And make it an appointment. It's like a meeting, isn't it?
It is
exactly that. It's as if you're showing up for a meeting every single morning to start your day, that everybody depends upon you to be there.
Yep.
You're going to miss that meeting? No, you're not going to miss that meeting. Schedule an appointment, a meeting for yourself every morning before you do anything, and make that meeting as important as if your entire business depended upon it. And you'll show up every morning, and then you get addicted to it, and you won't even consider the possibility of missing a moment because it feels so great.
I'm going to remove myself for a second. You guys chat. I'll be right back. I'm going to go send this email to Susan.
Okay. So, Marcus, at the school, I give the classes, all of my classes, a word to work on to benefit their lives. And I do it every year. And this year is the first one after 4 years of really dwelling and occupying the teachings of a word. Our word for the entire year last year was order. The year before that was deservedness. And I want to just comment a little bit about the value of those words. And this year we've gone to a format where I gave them an overall word, and which is stewardship. That's the word for 2020. Only now we're starting to break it down and have a word each month. So for January of this year, it was vision, not original with all the 2020 references, but vision. And then thoroughness was the word for February, and for March, it was measurement, having no idea that we were going to have a whole different version of March Madness this year. But with regard to order, I got to say that order has made just a tremendous difference in how good I have felt during this time, which we want to be very careful about how we. First of all, we don't want to be reacting to this time. We want to be responding.
Yeah.
I know that if anything were ever to occur to me or a loved one I have, and someone called an EMT, I would prefer that it not be a first reactor that shows up. I don't want a guy who goes, "Oh my God, he's in the street and there's blood everywhere. This is terrible."
Right.
That cat's not going to do me a lot of good.
Right.
So
Right.
I need someone to respond. And something I put out this week in some of these panels was that not only do we want to respond as opposed to react, but we also don't want to only be first responders, but more importantly than being first, we want to be best responders. So what is my best available response to this condition, right? What is the best available one? And I want to tell you, and I listen, I can't begin to even fully state how valuable this is, what I'm about to share. And it is such a simple activity, but I've never in all of my soon to be 61 years, I'll be 61 in 3 weeks. And I've never seen a more important time to practice the activity of making your bed. And so many people don't really grasp the value. They're thinking, making your bed, Morshower, are you serious? That's got to be like 758th on my list of priorities. Well, here is why it deserves to be way, way up on that list. Because first of all, it falls into the category of one of the controllables in your life, something that you can immediately have say-so about. And specifically, it rehearses a pattern. And I make my bed religiously. I do it every day. And it doesn't matter what time of day I get up. It is the first activity of the day that follows the shower. So I start with horizontal gratitude. That is my meditation time. Then I get on my feet. I start my day by drinking water. No matter what, I'm not even a coffee drinker, so I never drink coffee. But I start my day with water, and there's even a reason for that that goes beyond the fact that it's genuinely good for you, and it's what the body craves most. But I drink water because in drinking water, I'm rehearsing a pattern of purity. So there's an alliteration there that's easy to remember, a pattern of purity, so that I am telling myself the story that I care so much about this vessel that what I will feed it to get it to operate well are pure things. And then I proceed to drink water as not only an opportunity to enjoy the glass of water, but to really set forth a template of living. Then I take my shower. And after that, so I guess technically this would be the fourth activity of the day, all of which happen within the first 15 minutes. I go to my bed and I not only make it because it's not a chore, it's a joy. It is a true joy. And here is what you've probably never seen a grown man actually get excited as though he were describing a sexual experience. But the truth is it's borderline sexual for me for this reason. I'm looking at a mess that sits before me with, with the pillows in disarray and blankets and sheets and all of this. And I know that I am the device that will be used to transform it. And that I've timed it. It takes me just under 4 minutes to completely transform that messy bed, king size bed, into something that is absolutely beautiful. And I started sharing photographs with my students, and they're all now making their beds. And because they understand there's a different reason for it. It's not for show. You don't have to have anybody visiting you. You can be alone and still get tremendous value out of this, because what I'm declaring is that I am someone who operates in an orderly manner. And I make my bed not only in the morning, I make my bed in life. So now making one's bed becomes a metaphor that anything that is in disarray, that I'm in a position to do something about, by God, I do something about it. And it is very, very powerful. So every morning I smile at the opportunity to make it. And then once I've completed the task, I look at it and I go, that was a joy and that feels great. And I am starting my day with a made bed mindset. So it's quite bigger and could be very easily and often is underestimated in its value. There are a lot of military people who have spoken about the value of a made bed first thing in the morning. It's huge. And so for me, making a bed itself is a continuation of my morning meditation practice.
Well, and I think you're talking about General William McChrystal, if I'm not mistaken, who wrote the book Make Your Bed. And that was a commencement speech that he gave at maybe the Naval Academy or wherever it was. But it's so funny, Glenn. I mean, it's like we're running around in each other's heads, which is, not uncommon for you and I to do every now and again, because we had this conversation about making your bed yesterday morning. My daughter's in from LA.
Did you really? Just yesterday? Wow.
And we were talking about, I asked her, did you make your bed today? She said, no, I'm not making my bed. Yeah, you know, we had that conversation. And she's super responsible and awesome. And we were talking about making the bed as a way. And again, I was going to ask you to define what you mean by order. And I think you just did that now, right? Because by virtue of simply making your bed, and Sheila talks about this with her mother was exactly this way. She used to talk about the importance of making your bed every single morning, and it's an energy, it's a frequency of beginning to order your life for that day. It doesn't mean you're not spontaneous. It doesn't mean you don't allow and be receptive to whatever comes in during the day as it needs to. But by virtue of establishing an energetic decision that you're making for your day, it's like taking a shower before you get into your day as well, which frankly, as someone who works out of the house, and Ken, I know you can appreciate that. That's a struggle sometimes to make sure that's the first thing we do. But it happens every single day, and it always happens before we have to really show up for people, obviously. So I think what you're saying is brilliant, Glenn, and it's really super timely because we've been having this conversation and talking about the metaphysical impact, the metaphysical importance of doing something in the linear so simple as just making your bed every morning. And Sheila, are you hearing this? This is so funny. Glenn's talking about making your bed here. My wife is standing in front of me here. So, but you're right. I mean,
tell her to pop in and say hello to us.
Sheila, come over here. Come here.
Did you reach out to Susan Knight?
I sent her an email.
Okay, will you take me off for a sec? I'm going to turn off my video for just 1 second so that I can call her and have her join in with us. Okay. I don't want to miss Sheila, though. I don't want to miss this. Hi, Sheila.
Hi, Ken. It's nice to meet you.
Talking about making your bed.
Yeah, we do it every morning. Yeah, it's very important to start your day properly. My mother used to say, out of sight, out of mind.
That's right.
Hi, Glenn.
Hi, sweetheart. You look just beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, it's interesting. The make your bed consciousness also becomes, I use the word template. It's a word I use a lot. It's a mindset template for all other activities. So, for example, perhaps I'm an odd duck in this. It seems that I am by comparison with a lot of people, but I'm an odd duck that loves to wash the dishes. I love to wash the dishes. And here's what's really, really bizarre. We own one. And no, it's not Carolyn. We own an actual dishwasher that works with electricity, and it's not broken down. And I don't use it because if I used it, it would rob me of the joy that I get throwing on a little James Taylor and at night. And I do it at night because I don't want to start the day. Here's yet another great teaching. I don't want to start my day ever cleaning up yesterday's mess. And that's a metaphor. That's not just about dishes.
Wow.
I want to clean up today's mess today. I want to clean up today's mess and even yesterday's mess tonight before I go to bed to the extent that I'm able, because that is what allows tomorrow to give me the gift of its newness. So I'm not attacking the new day by having to address all the unaddressed crap that I've been ignoring. So I don't leave dishes in the sink to pile up. And I put on a little James Taylor because I love my JT. And I rock and roll, and it becomes, I'm like dancing, like just cruising and rubbing the dishes, like, and it probably make for a fun video to say, hey, there's a really lonely man.
Who's James Taylor?
Oh God, did somebody write in? Hey, Marcus, you guys can go to the upper right-hand corner and click live comments, and you can see
I love me some James Taylor.
Oh, there we go. I love me some James Taylor. That's
spring, summer. I love James Taylor. So, and Glenn, by the way, I know you want to call Sheila or Susan rather.
Yes.
But I literally was walking out of the bed. I get ready in the morning. I walk through the bedroom to get back to the main part of the house. And I was walking through the bedroom this morning and I was headed to my office and I'm like, and I walked past it and I kept going. And I'm like, ignore it. No, screw Glenn. I don't care what he says. Don't make the bed. And I went back and made the damn bed. Thank you.
And And how did it feel?
You had a great day, right, Ken? You had a great day, right?
It's been a fantastic day. And it, you know, I do it almost every day, but not every day. But here lately, I got Glenn's little devil thing on my shoulder going, make your bed.
You know, it's
You know,
funny how Glenn stays with you for a very, very long period of time and a number of different levels, by the way, too. Yeah, not just making your bed. I mean, it goes so much deeper than that.
Yeah.
so listen, before you guys take off, because I don't want you to take off just yet. Before you there she is. That's what I wanted to have happen. Before you guys fled the coop, I wanted you to meet my sweetheart, my soulmate, my angel sister, Susan Knight, who looks like she would be my actual sister.
Hi, friends.
So
Hi, guys.
Susan Knight, this is Marcus and Sheila Gillette, and of course Ken Walls. If you've watched any of our lives over
Yes.
the last few weeks, Ken is a sweetheart, and I love introducing good people to good people. So let me tell you who Susan is real quickly. Susan worked with a good friend of mine, a very inspirational man named Garrett Gunderson, years ago in Salt Lake City, and I was on one of Garrett's stages. This was his event with his company up there. And he invited me to come to a corporate talk for the extra mile. And Susan was my gal. She was my liaison, who was just, you be in charge of handling Glenn. Whatever Glenn needs, just show him the ropes. Don't let him get too far out of sight. He's probably going to not fare well if he's unsupervised. And so she gives me her car and says, you don't have a rental car? No. Here's my car. You look tired. Maybe you should get some sleep. Here's where you're going to be staying. And the room has already been checked in. It's all ready for you. And I go in and it's got a damn chocolate mint on the pillow. And it's like, oh my God. And she has been taking care of my life ever since. And I'd like to believe that I've paid back the favor somewhat. But anyway, welcome to Susan Knight, one of the most evolved women on the earth today.
Wow.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Susan. It's good to meet you.
It's great to meet you.
I'm so just blown away right now to be with the four of you. You know, it's just a privilege. You know, Glenn is a gift to the world, and you know, we definitely are kindred spirits and are grateful for the relationship that we have.
So we have a topic tonight, which is, and we're meandering around it. We never take one topic and try to stay on it the entire night, because after all, that would be shutting down our intuitions and our spiritual tributaries. That's what I call it. You know, we're invited by spirit to not take the main path often. In fact, I seldom take the main path. And so not only do I take the road less traveled, I take the road unbuilt and sort of discover it as we go. But our topic, the original topic, is what we can be doing to grow ourselves in so many ways, in all different ways, while systems around us could appear, I say could appear, they could seem to be collapsing. So how can we rise while other things are falling? And I know that it's entirely doable, because I've always said that my greatest tip, and I offer a lot of success tips in my life coaching, but bar none, and I don't say this as a joke, I mean this from the epicenter of my heart, I think the single greatest life coaching I can ever offer anyone is to take a close look at the way the masses are doing it and then promptly don't do that. Like whatever most people are doing, don't do that. Because if you do it, there's a reason. It's not just said for a laugh. If you do what most people are doing, you will achieve the same results most people are achieving. And the problem is, if you look around, this is not a judgment. There's a big difference between a judgment and an observation. My ongoing observation is that there is not a large percentage of people who are genuinely, and here's the word that wants to come to mind right now, rejoicing about the matter of their lives. And I'm talking about pre-COVID-19. I'm talking about before we had all of this going on and we were not quarantined in our homes and so forth. We were living our lives with a great deal of freedom, and yet bouncing up and down is not something I see a lot of, right? Really celebrating the experience of waking up and can't wait to get back at it, back at the matter of my privileged existence. And so I just feel like we're being invited to engage this period that is showing up as a gift. Anyway, that's what we're talking about, and feel free to share what you think about what's going on right now.
And may I real quick, I just want to be respectful. I know Marcus and Sheila said they had to eat or something soon. So I just want to be respectful of that and say,
I told him, split when you need to, dude. Split when you need to.
I'll tell you what, we are going to take off. I want to thank Glenn and Ken so much, you guys, for inviting us to be a part of this. And Glenn, thank you for that 3 minutes warning that you gave us prior to.
You're welcome. Listen, don't ever think that I'm in short supply of foreplay.
Yeah.
I'm big on foreplay, dude. Big on it.
And Susan, it was great to meet you. And Ken, I don't think this is the last time we're going to meet each other. And Glenn, we've got some invitations for you, by the way, that we have been speaking about to invite you to come join us on some virtual retreats that we're doing as well. So we'll be talking to you as well. Okay.
Please include me. Yes, darling.
You too, sweetheart.
Thank you, baby. And I want to let you know, I would be remiss of me if I did not get this plug in. Good God, I've been in Texas too long. I used to say get, and now I'm saying get. Get. So I want to get this plug in. This Tuesday night is our season finale of The Resident. And it is a really, really good episode, and I'm honored to be a part of it. So Tuesday night at whatever it is in Arizona, 7 or 8 p.m. on Fox. You'll love it. Tuesday night.
Excellent.
We'll see you there.
Excellent.
I love you guys. We'll be in touch.
Love you.
great meeting you.
Much love to all you guys and all of your viewers, and just stay safe and stay in love, and make the most out of it.
We'll do it.
Care, hi.
Yeah,
I will. I'll do it right now. Watch this. Hey, Care. Mark and Sheila give you their love. They said hi. She said send. Oh, she's yelling from downstairs. She said send them her love.
cool.
So
Thank you.
Love
you guys be well. We'll talk soon.
Take care, guys.
You as well. Be
Thanks
well.
a lot.
Hi.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's so great to meet you. I feel like I already know you. I know we have lots of mutual friends.
Oh, do we?
I know we do. So yeah,
Well,
you know.
I need to go give somebody the boot and add you, don't I?
Maybe.
I'm on it right now. You guys talk. I'm gonna go boot somebody.
So are you back in SLC or are you
I'm
in
in Salt Lake
Florida?
City. I am.
Okay.
I'm home, and I've been in Orlando off and on with Ben. So my oldest son Ben lives in Orlando, and yeah, you know, just you know, it's an interesting conversation what you guys have been talking about, and obviously I'm not prepared for this conversation, except that it's always nice to talk.
Well, sure you are. By just telling us, like, I'll give you a launching point. What have the last few weeks looked like in your life? What has this felt like? And when did you travel back from Orlando? And what was being on the plane like?
Okay.
You know, I flew, but and I fly all the time, but I haven't in about a little over 3 weeks. When was your last flight?
You know, it's probably been 3 weeks.
Oh, it
2
has.
weeks since I've been back.
Okay.
So, you know, about a year ago, I started my own journey of doing things differently. And you and I have talked off and on as far as challenges in our lives and things going on. And so about a year ago, I made some significant changes and have really been working on finding that not rushing around place so much, you know, just kind of, I was living a life of go, 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 go. And so it's been since last April that I've really made some decisions to work out in my garden and slow my life down and do the things that are really, truly important to me. One of my favorite quotes is, what matters most must never be at the mercy of what matters least. And you know, my family and you know, I love being out in my garden and I love being with my family, and I wasn't doing enough of that. And so for me, over the last couple months when life's slowing all the way down, it hasn't been completely different for me, except that the world has slowed down.
Yes.
You know, an obvious shift globally, and when you know, when you're seeing the skies are better and cleaner, and so that's been a nice shift for me to see the world slow down a little bit more, and my commitment to that has been good. When I was in Orlando, so my son Ben is this brilliant writer, Benjamin Hardy. So if you don't know, benjaminhardy.com is a good place to go. He's a brilliant writer and has been doing some amazing things. He's just finished his second book that's coming out in June. It's called Personality Isn't Permanent. And then for you Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach fans, he's just finished this week, and that's why I was in Orlando with him, to help him with this book with Dan Sullivan. And it's called Who Not How, and it's again just Ben's very much the self-development and in really working on the things that are most important to us in our lives. And so I couldn't be more proud of him and the work that he's doing. And so, yes, I was in Orlando. He's got 3 adopted beautiful kids and 2 little twins. So I have 5 grandchildren there. And so I got to be with them and help Ben with the book from an editing and just kind of fine-tuning perspective. And then I got on a plane, and for me, you know, I don't really approach fear. I wasn't nervous or, concerned. It was, maybe 20% full. And I think I was there kind of like you were, Glenn, just right before it got a little crazy.
Yeah. A little cray.
And then, so then I got back, and the next morning, had the big earthquake here in Utah, and I'm not that far from, where the epicenter was. And so it was about 7 a.m. and I was awake, and just, it was kind of crazy to, we haven't had a big earthquake for a long time. And so everything was shaking. And so, you really do start to think differently as life is occurring differently, as in our society and in the world. And, I'm just grateful. I'm hoping that we will take the slowdown and incorporate it as we move forward, as things get, I hope the new normal incorporates the things that we realize are the most important. I'm very committed to that personally. I have my youngest brother and I have my son. We're going to do our own 14-day quarantine starting tomorrow. And my brother's going to move in with me. He's had some big health issues and needs a place to stay for a couple of months. And so we're going to take the next 14.
Well, it seems like the quarantine just began.
Uh-oh.
What is that? Just an interrupted signal?
Yeah, it's some kind of an interrupted signal. Okay,
well, we can't hear you, Susan. So does she need to go out and come back in?
Yeah, you might want to send her a text. I'm gonna remove her just so it doesn't cause any issues.
Okay.
And then she can just click the link and come right back in. And Mike Scott says he is flying in a week and a half. And let me tell you, I talked to a client of mine, a friend of mine that just flew from Detroit. This was a couple days ago, flew from Detroit to Tampa, Florida. And she said it was surreal. She said the airport is probably the safest place in the world right now. There's nobody. She said it was eerie. There was nobody there. I don't know.
How do they even afford to put the planes in the air?
I don't know, but have you ever been in the Detroit airport?
Oh yeah, I've been to Midway Airport there. No, that's in Chicago. I've been to Metro. Metro is in Detroit. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Like they have that huge underground tunnel. And so she said there was literally nobody there on her flight from Detroit to Tampa. There were 20 people on the whole plane. On the entire plane. That's crazy.
Wow.
And you definitely can experience social distancing with only 20 people on a flight. And maybe that's why they're doing it, is for that purpose. I don't know. I
Right.
don't know. Maybe it's just everybody's like, no, I'm not traveling.
I wonder if when you go to book your seat, and of course, Southwest Airline is first come, first serve,
Yeah.
and I can see them scattering people about.
Oh,
But I would think that even when you book your tickets, if they have those few numbers, if the numbers are that small, they probably don't put seats next to each other. I can't imagine that they would.
I was looking at flights not too long ago, and a first class round trip ticket on Delta was like right at $500. First class. It was ridiculous.
Hmm.
The cost is crazy, crazy, crazy cheap. So inexpensive.
I wonder how they'll even continue to send planes in the air, though, if the numbers are that greatly diminished. And I'm wondering, I guess there are a lot of routes that have already shut down. Is that true? Have there been a lot of?
I don't know. I have no
I
idea.
know that I can't fly right now. I don't think I can just pop into LA via air. I'm not sure exactly what that is. So we lost you. You froze, Susan.
Did I? Well, so I was talking about a 14-day, we're doing our own 14-day quarantine starting tomorrow, and I'm kind of excited about it. My brother's going to be staying with me and my son Trevor, and we are going to do no technology. So I'm glad we're doing this tonight because
Oh, wow.
we're doing our own kind of a, setting things that, we are going to quarantine because we need to, and it's the right thing to do. And then I also, we're going to quarantine from things that, support each other and some things we need to do and want to do.
Does that mean you will be unable to be reached by cell phone during that
I'll
time?
have my phone so you can text me.
Okay.
But
Okay.
You want, like, you're not going to do meetings or any of this?
I am, I have a few calls I'll need to make and stuff during the day, but so phone, I'm going to be on my phone, but we're not having any TV or any Facebook, or we're going to eat the way, we've got some goals with my son Trevor is a vegetarian. We're going to eat vegetarian, and
Wow.
And we've got we set the day today, some intention for our.
I want Trevor to be. Did you tell him I want him to be my photo double when they need to get an ab shot of me?
He's been asking for you.
If the resident ever decides to hook me up with a wife or something, or a lover, then at that point when they cut into the close-up where she's pulling my shirt up, I want to cut into his abs. and have everybody going, dude, you look great for 60. I mean, just
it's kind of a problem. Yeah.
Good God, what do you do to work out? Answer: I called Trevor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Body double.
What does Mike Scott say on that?
He said that's what he's afraid. He said, I'm afraid it's going to be canceled. I don't know. I haven't. I mean, when I talked to my client yesterday and she said she flew to Tampa from Detroit the day before, I said, how in the world did you get a flight? She goes, I just booked it and went to the airport. She said the airport is probably the safest place right now because first, it's really, really clean. And second, there's literally nobody there. She said it was eerie walking through the airport.
Yeah, what was Mike talking about when he said that that's why I'm afraid it's going to be canceled? What was he referring to?
He's flying in a week and a half somewhere.
Oh, and he's thinking that his flight may be canceled?
Yeah, he has to fly somewhere. And he's in California where, Bob Donnell was out there and he called me. He said, dude, I think they're, and this is before anybody shut down. He said, I think they're getting ready to shut down California. I said, yeah, dude, the way it's looking like it. I said, and he's like, well, I don't want to be on lockdown in California. I want to be with my daughter in Idaho. And he's like, I go, well, then you better
haul ass out of there.
Hit the 15 and head toward Vegas, man, and get the heck out of there because it's shut down.
And we have the misfortune of being separated by half the country from our kids, and they're both there in the Los Angeles area. So
he's flying Sacramento to Vegas.
So is that a Southwest Airlines flight?
I don't know which airline, Mike.
Flew to Milwaukee. Oh, there's Dan.
I saw
McCoy.
one person flew to Milwaukee and saw one person.
And-
What?
And 8 people were on a 737.
Flew to
Hi, Dan
Milwaukee.
McCoy.
Where Dan? Where do
Oh,
you?
look at that. Dan and Susan are old buds.
We met at the same time.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Susan, what do you have up your sleeve, my dear, in terms of your personal preparedness? What skill set within you have you chosen to call upon? And I say chosen to as opposed to had to call upon, because there's no have to. We're always at choice. So what have you chosen to call upon to thrive during this peculiar time?
Wow. That's a good question. You know, I am going to say faith. Faith, I have, you know, had the opportunity over the last few years to really work on faith. Fear is easy. Fear is really easy to get into fear and get all worked up. Faith actually takes work. And so I love the quote, faith knows it's already received and acts accordingly. So we already know that things are going to get better. We already know that things are I mean, I'm so proud of the country, how we've pulled together as a country. And so, you know, I think faith, I'm a God-loving, you know, girl that has really relied on faith. And so that's really kind of my superpower, if that's what you asked, that I'm relying on.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Look at the energy coming off of her. Do you see it?
I know. Well, that's why we're friends.
She's just radiating.
I feel like
Well,
I'm
I got to be honest with
I'm
you.
so like happy to be here with the two of you.
I got to be honest with you.
I feel so happy to be with the two of you, but I've had this long day and I feel like look like I'm going to pass out. But
Oh no, you look wonderful.
No, Susan's energy is so radiant, and so there are really only 2 reasons that I continue to have a relationship with her. One is to selfishly allow her radiance to fall upon me, and the other is that she promised me years ago that she would at some point serve as my hair donor. So I've got that going for me.
What?
My hair donor.
Oh,
Because that is exactly the color my hair used to be.
wow.
And can I mention to you that I smiled when I had a lot more of it? I was smiling like she was.
Yep, I've got some hair for you. It's no one else. I'm not donating it to anyone else.
Please don't. If a child that is burdened with some sort of sickness needs it, please make them a priority. But just in a baggie, just save a little bit for me. That's all. Because I keep it so tightly cropped anyway, I don't need a lot. Just a little smattering of hair would work great. What does this one say? Faith, giving, and what?
Finding the new opportunities within the crisis, and that's something that is so true, and we've talked about it a little bit before. But you know, in every crisis breeds new opportunities, and I think that, you know, we're going to see a lot of. Again, I said, Dan said you look better with no hair. Listen, when Glenn and I first started hanging out, I'm Googling. I'm like, oh, dude, you were in Star Trek. And he's like, yeah. And I go, that doesn't even look like you. He's like, I had a lot more hair. But, you know, when there's going to be a lot of incredible opportunities that come out of this. There really are. And I think that, you know, if you're in a state of panic or fear or whatever it is, you know, try reframing what's happening and looking for the silver lining, because there always is one.
Absolutely. There's gifts along the way.
Yeah.
I would say there's gifts along the way. And Glenn, so faith knows it's already received and acts accordingly.
Yes.
So faith is knowing that whatever you want is already received. And so, like I said, I think we have to act accordingly is the key to that, right? We have to act as if, you know, that we receive what we're looking to achieve and have what we desire in our lives. I believe
and using a technique called living from the end, we actually, if we believe that, and I'm of that same spiritual camp, to see those things as having already been received, it's not yet a done deal. And let me explain what I mean by that. It's a done deal mentally, the outcome, but then we now have to, so we fast forward to the intended outcome, right? The desired outcome, and we live in it. This is what I tell my students. Don't just see it and stop there, but actually occupy that space. See yourself living in that vision that you have for your life. And then from there, we now rewind back to present time, and we say, and what was it that I did?
Yes.
Meaning in past tense. This is called viewing the future from the past. I want to say that again because it sounds a little peculiar, but viewing the future from the past. So what was it that I did to facilitate the unfolding of that outcome? So you start with the acceptance of the outcome. This is done. Now, what is my role in it? And what happens is, since you've accepted a template of success, and that has already been manifest in your mind, then it now issues a template of behavior, a template of responsibility, where we get to choose based on that outcome. There are a set of do's and don'ts, which have nothing to do with morality, by the way.
Right.
That there are not spiritual do's and don'ts that are based on morality. They're based on what does and does not generate that outcome. So, for example, I want to make a very specific example because I think specific examples are helpful. I wrote a chapter called Gold Medal or Cheesecake years ago in my book, and it says that I was imagining someone asking a trainer to train them to win a gold medal, like they're ready to be a super track star, and maybe they're training for the 400-meter relay or whatever it is, but they're training for some big track event, and they're doing all the right things, but then they're going home and every night they're eating loads of cheesecake. Why? Because they like it. And finally, the coach sees them and witnesses this practice and says, he just walks up, or she walks up and say, hey, I got a question for you. Yeah, what's up, coach? Yeah, what's it going to be, gold medal or cheesecake?
Yeah, I love that.
And so it really becomes about what consequence do you desire most? You know, sometime maybe a week ago on this program, I was talking about the 4 levels of effective decision making, those being, what do I want? But that's only level 1. You know, we were misled in the 70s by cats that walked around like this going, dude, it's about what you want, man. Right? It's just about what you want. So you got to do it. You just got to do what you feel, man. Do what you want. And while that's very freeing advice, it has also ruined a lot of lives because it failed to take into consideration this very powerful truth about life, which is known as consequences. So the level above, do what you want, becomes create what consequence you want. So that's level 2, is what consequence do you want? And then the next level up is, what do you want most? I'm sorry. Let me back up real quickly. I want to get these in right order. I was reading the question that Ken had put on the board. So it's, what do you want? Then the second question is, what do you want most? Because in when we compare them, we can begin to see that oftentimes we can want contradictory things. Right? We because we're multidimensional and no one person is just one person. We all have the multiplicity of selves existing within us. And so sometimes we have selves within us that are so vastly different that the two could sit in a friggin' room and argue. And they're both versions of us. I mean, I've never met a human being that didn't have that as part of the human experience. So when we have this, we have to say, well, for example, let's take the subject of health, something that is very much on our minds these days. And someone could say, well, what do I want? You know, one of the things I really want is to go to Africa, right? I've wanted it my whole life. I'm making this up, by the way, and I've been to Africa already. But let's say someone had never been to Africa and they'd always wanted it. And then they list that as one of the things they want. I think that most everyone would agree, and I'd be surprised if someone didn't agree, if those two were butted up next to each other, if they were side by side, and the question is, what do you want most? If the question were, do you want your health most, or do you want to go to Africa? I can't imagine anyone who would check the let's go to Africa box.
Right.
Right? Because clearly, if we don't have our health, that can be a problem in many, many other areas. So now, as we go up this rung of this ladder of decision making, what do we want most is really more important than just what do we want. And it turns out that there are two that are above that. And the two that are above that are what consequence do I want? That's level 3. What consequence? Because we've now spiritually matured to the point where we recognize that every choice has a consequence, every cause has an effect, and we're not going to get to choose what we want without that thing we want generating a consequence. This is called life. That's all it is, and it's impersonal. The things we want produce consequences, and that's neither good nor bad. It's just that it is going to produce a consequence. So before you make a choice, you might want to examine the most likely consequence of this choice. What will this most likely produce? And then the highest level, in my view, and I'm only expressing an opinion, but in my view, the highest level, level 4, is what consequence do you want most? So quick review. What do you want? What do you want most? What consequence do you want? And what consequence do you want most? When we do it from the future looking back, and we start with the outcome in mind, meaning the consequence of the decision we make, and then choose backward, we make great choices for this one reason. Using that template, that vision of ours, that vision will clarify for us. So help me God, it works. That vision will clarify for us what does and does not belong anymore, what fits and what doesn't. So if you start with that gold medal hanging around your neck that you won for the 400-meter freestyle, just know this: cheesecake is not what got you there.
Right.
That's not what got you there.
Yeah.
So now you remove cheesecake from the game plan. And what I would tell the person training with me was, I'm gonna make you an offer. You go win that gold medal. And once you do, not only will you get to eat cheesecake, but I'm going to eat it with you. Right? We're going to go out and celebrate and eat all the cheesecake there ever was. We're just not going to do it en route to you being at your playing weight, your game day readiness, because cheesecake and gold medal don't belong together. They do not effectively coexist. And I think so often this is a great teaching about manifestation. So during this COVID-19 time, and you're wondering, the people who maybe have never really visited the entrepreneurial mindset, start from what do you want, and then go up that ladder to what do I want most, what consequence do I want, what consequence do I want most. And then if you want to put this on a little faster track, you can just cut right to level 4 and say, what outcome or consequence do I desire to create the most with my life at this time?
Yeah.
And then when you get clear on that, there will be a list of behaviors that are either congruent with the outpicturing of that. Outpicturing is a term that's big in metaphysics for manifestation. They call it outpicturing. So for things to outpicture the way you envision them, now you have a set of behaviors which are either congruent with that outcome or they are incongruent. And what you realize, if you're being a grown-ass woman or a grown-ass man, and I consider myself to be a grown-ass woman, I look in the mirror every morning and I go, dude, you're a grown-ass woman. You're going to have to handle this better than you've been handling it.
You see why I have my best grown-ass woman friend here.
Yeah.
So just the idea is that what grown people will do is grown people will not think that they're going to, quote, get there, wherever the there is. They're not going to get there using incongruent recipes. If it is a recipe that is incongruent with that outcome, they don't throw that nonsense in the oven. They're not going to try to cook up an outcome using an incongruent recipe because it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And this is a great time to start evaluating the recipes, frankly, that we're all cooking with.
Yeah.
It's a great time to examine your mental and spiritual cookbook.
Yeah.
You know, I think what Eric Brower, he's a good friend of mine up in Michigan. And I mean, I'm from Ohio, the land of the Ohio State University. So we don't get along well with people in Michigan, but I do really love this dude. And he said, I think what we've all learned from this, and this is big, is how do we collect enough money to make sure our families are safe. Financial freedom is key. And I have to say that, even, back to the beginning when we were just cavemen, it was who could store the most food, who could, that was who made the rules, is who could go out and kill the most food or bring in the biggest harvest. And so, from a financial standpoint, I so agree that there's a lot of people in this world, not just in the United States, but in this world, that were not prepared for this. I have a team of people that have helped me with website development in India for, I don't know, 12 years. And the main guy is like a brother to me. And I mean, they are hurting. They are hurting over there, because you go out in the streets in India, the police over there, the first step is they beat you with a stick. The second step is if you fight back, they'll shoot you. Like those are the rules. You do not go outside in India while on lockdown. And so, there are people who are very ill prepared for this. And I don't want to say it's their fault, and I'm not taking that route, because, I'm definitely blessed to be where I am. But there are people who they're not ready for this. They're just not ready for this. Right. And they're suffering, and my heart goes out to them. And obviously I can't save the entire world, and neither can you, Glenn, and Susan looks like she probably could. But I
think you may be right, Ken.
I know, but so I think that again, it's a time for people, and I think it was Shakespeare that said, the greatest disservice we do to our children, and I'm butchering it, I realize that, but the greatest disservice we do to our children is to steal away their hunger. And we all know children who were given everything and more in life, and they went out and squandered it and screwed it all up. And so I think that this is an opportunity for someone who is ill prepared to find the greatest version of themselves that they didn't even know existed, if they just look. And you're going to have to work your butt off for it.
Yeah, but usually this absolutely true. When you're thrown into the water in a sink or swim modality, most people swim.
Right.
Sometimes we're kind of thrown into the water.
Right.
Circumstantially, it's not the preferred position, but it does occur. By the way, random thought just came into me. Years ago, I was in a proctologist's office, and
where's this going?
I quoted. Well, I'm connecting it. I'm connecting the dots, bud. That's what we do. We listen to what somebody says, and then we pick up on it. And you were talking about Shakespeare, and it occurred to me that the last time I quoted Shakespeare was in my proctologist's office. I walked in, he gave me a little cup, and I went to the restroom, and I said, "To pee or not to pee?" That is the question.
We knew it. We knew you were.
It's so bad. I got to look for a new audience. Really bad.
No, you did. It was good.
It was. Had I not interrupted, it would have been perfect.
Well, why don't you think about that next time?
Oh my gosh! So now it's the Ken and Susan show.
Oh, and I'm going away. Go ahead, ditch me. Let me see it. Show them how you do it.
I'm here. It's 9:40 Mountain Time, and I got 2 hours and 20 minutes till I'm technology on. So
I can't believe you're doing that. Wow, I'm
feeling pretty excited about it.
Hey, can you scroll back? Let me see. Ken, can you illuminate there was a comment here that I saw, and I even wrote it down. It's Wendy. It's Wendy Four's comment. Is Wendy one of your people?
Yes, Wendy is one of my people.
And Wendy talked about consequences.
Oh, that.
Yes. Okay. So I want to clarify for Wendy that that consequences is a neutral term.
Yes.
But more often than not, it is received in a negative way. Please know that it is not that. When someone says, there are consequences, what it seems to be implied is that there are bad consequences or negative consequences. Please know there's no truth to that at all. There's just consequences. And consequences can be both plus or minus. So when you say that consequences suck, so choose wisely, I'm encouraging you to modify that and realize that consequences sometimes suck, right? So it's not that they suck, because there are some most desirable consequences. And I encourage people to seek out the desirable consequences in life. So let's make sure that we don't put a negative rap on that word. And if it activates negativity when you hear it, that's probably a good thing to go in and reset so that you have a new relationship with the word consequences. Because I got to tell you, I've had some amazing consequences in my life, and they came as a direct response to the choices that preceded them, and they were the desired outcome. So I had a consequence in mind. I chose well based on the desired consequence. And what do you know? What I put in the oven is what showed up when I opened the oven, and it showed up cooked. Yeah. So just a thought about that. And that's not in any way, shape, or form an attack. That is pure love. Pure love. I just want to send that out, that there are many desirable consequences in life.
And thank you for that, Eric. Eric is plugging my amazing wife's amazing website development skill set. She is freaking so good. But so, I think that as you were talking, I had a thought and it's gone. So I'm going to shut up.
Maybe I shouldn't have talked for so long to make that point.
That's all right. It was
next time, if you have something that hops in, just jump in with it.
No, I interrupted you a few minutes ago with your proctologist story, and I rue the moment that I did that.
You know what? I'm pretty sure I'm already over it.
I want to pop in and say something.
Please
do it. I sent you a text, by the way, Susan.
Okay. To Eric, because I love what he's saying, that he's in the biggest hustle of his life right now with what's going on. And I think that is commendable. And I really love his comments. And so good job, Eric. And I think we all should be in the biggest hustle of our lives now and always, but doing it in a way that can honor us. So
he said,
then I'll honor that too. Keep it up. Keep being that biggest pain in the ass.
Susan, did you see in the upper right-hand corner where you can click on live comments? If you click in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the chat room.
Yeah.
So you can scroll and address
good.
some of the things that are being said. Dan McCoy talked about impromptu beatings. I assume he was referring to Ken's mentioning of what was happening in India. Yeah. And you posted that video, which that video French fried the circuitry of my brain, dude.
It came from my guy in India, and that wasn't him on the little motorcycle thing, but still, like, holy crap. Here, can you imagine the cops getting sticks out and beating us for going out for a walk on the sidewalk? Like, that wouldn't happen here, So sometimes I think that and Americans, we have it pretty easy. And I think a lot of people right now are sitting back, watching Netflix, not really thinking like, okay, my job's going to be there. And I know, there are servers, waiters and waitresses and people in the restaurant industry that, I mean, what do you do if you're used to living night by night on your tips and those poor people, I feel their pain. So this is from a place of empathy, because I've been there where you're like, oh dear Lord, now what? And if you're waiting on $1,200 or $2,400 or $3,000 from the government, that's cool that they're doing that. But what's next? You've got to make a plan, because there's a real, and I'm the kind of I've always been an entrepreneur. Like, you know, I'm not making a plan, man. I'm like, you know, go, ready, set. Like, I'm like, let's just go. We'll build the aircraft on the way down.
Right.
Let's just jump. Like, you know, because
You're like ready, fire, aim.
ready, fire, aim. That's it. I don't like, because and it was General George S. Patton had an unbelievable quote. I will not be able to remember it, but it was something about and maybe you two, you're much smarter than me, will know the quote. It's a plan that is a well-made plan that never sees the light of day is nothing compared. I forget. I'll Google it while you guys talk. How's that?
honey, can you cancel Ken Walls as the author of 100 famous quotes, please? I had put that on my whiteboard to ask him if he would author that book.
That's nice.
Okay,
That's
you're off. You're off.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Let me quote Harry Morshower right now, the man that raised me. He said, "Son, if it feels good, do it, and if it moves, get it."
Say that again.
Yeah, he said, "Son, if it feels good, do it, and if it moves, get it." So I had something. So I actually want to offer a gift.
I have the quote. Can I read it first?
Please do.
A good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan executed next week.
Right.
Say the first part again.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's up there. That deserves to be on your wall with that brass plaque that you have hung up in your house, Susan.
I'm gonna make a little banner and throw it up on the screen right now. So it's a good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan executed next week. So meaning, get off your butt and go. You do not, look, $1,000, $1,200, $2,000, whatever, that's going to help pay your rent this month, maybe even help a little with next month or whatever. But like, you gotta make a plan, because there is a really good chance that a lot of these businesses are not coming back. It's time to take massive action.
Who is this quote attributed to?
It's General George S. Patton.
Okay. Well, that explains the use of the word violently.
Yeah,
because I think that I love every part of that except the word violently. I
love it. I love the word violently.
Well, for war, yes. But I think if you're raising, I get that. But I'm saying if you're raising children at a nursery school, that's probably not going to be the quote that I give them. I'm probably not going to tell little kids, you got to get violent. Kids,
nursery school.
You got to get violent with your plan.
Susan froze again.
Oh boy! But look at that freeze.
I know.
She looks like she's in a deep sleep.
I know. She's meditating.
She'll come back in.
Let me remove her so it doesn't cause any problems.
That's all right.
I hear what you're saying. I agree, but I think from an adult standpoint, you've got to get real. Like. Like, it's like you said, if you're thrown into the deep water, like, man, you're not going to be like, well, I can't like violently try to survive. You better.
Yeah. Well, most people you don't give a crutch to will learn to walk.
Right. It's true.
And I'm not saying everybody, because there are times when people need a crutch and until their leg gets better. But a lot of times, if you think about it, people stay on crutches too long. And I'm talking about metaphorical crutches too, where they get so used to leaning on something that they lean without instead of leaning within.
Yeah.
Right. And the whole idea is we're being really called to lean upon our internal, basically our infrastructure, our spiritual infrastructure, our across the board infrastructure. Yeah. So while we're waiting on Susan to come back, I had a thought, Keno, my buddy, my brother, my soul brother.
Yeah.
And that's that I'd like to actually offer some measure of hope some measure of encouragement, because I can really very easily tap into someone listening through the filters of resentment saying, yeah, guys, that may be great for you. And all of your theories and your postulates and your opinions, they may be great for you because you're out here in the ocean on a fairly large sized boat. Again, I'm speaking in metaphor. But meanwhile, I'm sitting here with a little dinghy. I'm in a little dinghy and I'm out in the middle of the ocean, and it doesn't feel so good right now. And
Right.
it's really, really hard. So those are the people that I want to speak to for a moment and just say this. The best thought I could offer right now is to stop in this moment with things just as they are and just as they're not, and just breathe, which is a meditation thing. Just start with a breath. And then the first thing we're going to do as part of this plan is to pull our focus and our attention off of what has been taken away and off of the list of what we can't do, right? The list of the things we can't do, because obsessing over that really will just create an implosion scenario. I can't imagine it going any other way, and frankly, overwhelming. I would also stay out of the distant future. So, for example, trying to decide, well, how long is this period going to go on? It's scary. I get that it's scary, but trying to figure out how long it's going to be going on is pointless, and it won't help. And if anything, it could just overwhelm. If someone said with a guarantee that it will be 8 more months or 10 more months, and your reaction is, what the hell am I going to do then? So what we're working with is making this moment good. What we're working with is making the next 5 minutes good, and then ultimately the rest of this evening good, so that tonight when we go to bed, and I said this earlier in the week, Ken, we can put this moment and this day in the history books and label it as one that we lived well.
Mm-hmm.
To put this day in the history books as one that we lived well. What does living well mean? It means that we were best responders with whatever tools we had. We responded the best we possibly could have under the circumstances. And what I think will help that a lot is to compartmentalize life.
Yeah.
And there is a school, it's really become a religion for me. It's a religion, and it's one that I promote all the time. And it's the religion of incrementalism, right? Incrementally. We're going to get there wherever it is you're headed. Wherever it is you're headed, wherever it is I'm headed, where all of us are headed, I will promise you that the pathway there is one of incrementalism. We're going to get there a little bit at a time, right? Just a little bit with that next right step. So the idea of getting the current predicament that you feel yourself in, getting it all solved right now, it's actually unnecessary to make that decision, because you're not going to solve the whole thing right now. And the best metaphor, and I offered this again in one of our other shows, but I've gotten such great feedback on it that I want to offer this again. So right now, for example, I'm here in the state of Texas. I'm in Dallas. And right now, there are some very remote places that I could go to in my car if I chose to at night. And some of those locations, let's just take one, for example, that's 100 miles from here. And whatever that destination is, there's a little town that's less than 100 miles from here called Mahia. It's spelled Mexia. So Mahia. And if I wanted to go to Mahia, there's no major highway to Mahia. There's a major highway from here to Austin, from here to Houston, from here to Oklahoma City, from here to San Antonio, which is the same road you take going down to Austin and Waco. That's I-35. But I'm talking about the blue highways of America. So there is a road between here and Mahia that I could take tonight, and I would not get to Mahia because it's lit up. The truth is, it's not lit up. In fact, the vast majority of the road, probably to the tune of about 95% out there, is completely dark right now. If you were to photograph it from the air, what you would see is Dallas all lit up. And by the time you got about 30 miles south of Dallas on one of these private blue roads, 2-lane highway, it is completely dark. And you could say, well, how in the hell am I going to get there? I can't see my way. And the answer is incrementally, because I'm going to get to whatever my nighttime destination is 150 feet at a time.
Yeah.
Trusting the projection of my headlights, to trust that they are going to light the next 150 feet for me, and that's all I need. And once I've traveled the full extent of that 150 feet, a new 150 feet will be illuminated for me all over again. And that pattern continues over and over again, only it's not lit 150 at a time. It's lit each new foot at a time.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't have to wait the full 150 before the next begins to be illuminated. After I've traveled 50, the next 150 is illuminated before I've traveled the full 150. So we keep stacking on that next part of the story. And that's the thing. Until we're willing to drive the course, the next part of the story almost certainly will not be revealed. That's the way it works. And the other night, I also told the story of the lily pads, the story of the frog that is trying to cross the mighty current of the river. And it's intimidated because I'm a little bitty frog. This is the Mississippi River, and it's huge, and its current is so strong and it's so deep, and I'm not an accomplished swimmer. And the older, wiser frog says, do you see that lily pad that's right in front of you? This is obviously a metaphor, but it's still a very accurate one, and it has a lot to teach about the school of incrementalism. And so the older frog advises the younger one, you need to simply jump on that lily pad, and when you do, here's what's going to happen. Those lily pads are pressure activated. This is a really beautiful spiritual and philosophical teaching. When you make the jump, the leap of faith onto that lily pad, your weight, once you land upon it, will pop 2 new lily pads up. And now you'll have 2 to choose from. And when you jump on either one of those, 4 will pop up. And before you know it, you have this unlimited number of paths that you can take across the river. But every one of them, every new lily pad required, and it was non-negotiable, it required of you that you take that next leap of faith. Yeah. Because until the lily pad which sits before you is landed upon by you, then the subsequent ones, they simply don't pop up. So this is time to simply focus on what is my next right move singularly. Don't try to work out the whole picture. So for some of you, just stay with me on this for a minute. It could be that watching this program, and I'm not saying that this is the answer. I'm saying that it could be that tonight's program might be the very lily pad I'm talking about. Establish relationship capital. Talk with people who are in the know. Who are the people that you would say these are the top 5 people that I esteem to be successful people in my life? And watch what they do. Watch how they behave. Watch not only the choices that they make. Here's a big one. Watch the choices that they don't make. Watch those and learn from those. And then realize that life is eminently formulaic. It's both eminently formulaic and infinitely formulaic.
Yep.
And do it one step at a time. Downsize your choices, and that will keep the grandiosity of this from overwhelming you. And hopefully that helps.
I would like to say that, I love what we're doing here. And I love reaching a lot of people, but quite frankly, we only have 9 people watching right now. And that's because we haven't thanked people for sharing this, because a lot of people have shared it, and then I believe they may have left. And we have not interacted with the audience much at all. And I really would like to encourage the whole panel, including myself, to start talking to people that are throwing questions out, because there are people throwing things out, and I think that we've ignored them, and I don't want to get too far from that. So
I'm sorry, I was trying to address that by talking about solutions.
I know you are, and I really would like for people to share this out. I would love for people to share this out, and even if you've already shared it, share it again. And if you like and you hit the heart button or the like button, it actually tells the Facebook algorithm, hey, this is a popular video, let's show it to more people. So if you guys, anybody watching right now, if you have any questions for Glenn or Susan, Oh, and I guess me, if you want to ask me, I mean, throw it out there, and we would love to look. There are people in pain, and I want to help, and I know Glenn wants to help, and I know Susan is getting ready. Like Susan is literally getting ready to give up everything for the next 14 days, including Facebook. Oh, I don't
I
even.
didn't say everything.
Yeah. She still has her cell phone. I guess that friend request, I just deleted somebody and sent Susan a friend request. It's gonna be
I have 2 hours. I have 2 hours left. And then afterwards, I can't wait. I definitely want to get Ben talking to you guys too. I'd love a show with you and the two of you and Ben.
awesome.
It would be awesome.
I would not have told that story so beautifully if I'd realized we only had 9 people. I thought I was talking to thousands. No, I would have just slurred my speech, and I might even look like this, and, just told that story as badly as I could have. But that being said, this is. I'm going to throw a question out there, and I don't want this just to be for the two of you. I want this question, so everyone, I'm asking you to listen. Hello, Joan Anton, my dear friend from Pennsylvania. I love you. I want everyone to listen and please chime in so that Ken can highlight your responses to this question. And it's also to the two of you. So you said we had 9 people on.
Yes.
Now, I am not anti silly things that go viral. But why? And I've wondered this forever. We know this. We know that in the speaking world, I've heard this stat, and I don't disagree with it. I've heard it said that 75 or 80%, from 75 to 80% of the product that is purchased back in the old days when someone would buy a CD or a DVD or whatever, that it's at one of these big feel-good weekends, promoting mental health and so forth, and everyone's all excited that a year later, the product that they absolutely had to go get, they had to get to the back of the room and buy it, it's still in its shrink wrap.
Yep.
Right? That's 75% of the people that buy the product. So here's my question. Why are we obsessed with seeing things that bring a little laugh, and which I'm not knocking? I think those things are beautiful. I love silliness as much as the next guy.
Yep.
But how is it that we can see something that is silly and it will have 3 million hits, and something that is substantive, something that is soulful, something that is a bit of a roadmap that can genuinely help people to get out of the place that they're claiming is a big word here, Ken. You've never heard me go off on this stuff, but they're claiming to be unhappy about. Oh, wow. I love that. Shelf help.
I do too. Dan.
I've never heard that expression, Dan. Wow, shelf help. That's true.
And I'd like to say, if anybody would like to, jump in here with us, join the panel. We can only allow, 1 or 2 more at a time. And it looks like Susan dropped her signal again. But if anyone would like to jump in here, just send me a private Facebook message and I will drop the link to you. Make sure it's not on your phone. It only is good from a desktop. And we will gladly bring in, if you have Google Chrome on a desktop browser, we will bring you in to, there's Susan. She's back. Hey, Susan, welcome back.
Christy is on here with us tonight, and Julie, I see up there, and Eric is there, and Larry Schneider is there.
Dan, I would send me a message, Dan, on Facebook.
I know Sherry Gideons has been with us for quite some time. So I'm asking all of you that are watching, why do you think that is? And I'm not coming from judgment. This is me as a puzzled human being, that there can be, I'm telling you, if you had a wheelbarrow, really hear this, a wheelbarrow that was loaded, falling all over the top, spilling out everywhere with answers and solutions, and they were free. They were available, and all it takes is just the grabbing it. That is a wheelbarrow that would be ignored by a huge percentage of society.
Yeah.
And it baffles me. And these are the same people, and I'm not pointing a finger, I'm saying that these are the same people that complain all the time about the condition their lives are in. They don't like their relationships. They don't like their job. They hate the car they drive. They whatever. And it's basically a laundry list of complaints. And you roll up a wheelbarrow of help.
Yeah.
And they wind up being on the list of the 3 or 4 million people who click like, I love that share. That's a nice share. That's funny. I laugh. but they won't do the work of zeroing in on the things that actually could change their life. And I don't know that having a simple laughter is great because it's great medicine for the body, even at a molecular level. Yeah. But we can't only sit around and laugh. I think laughing is, I love laughs. I love to do comedies, but they're sort of like laugh a lot, and also do the work, do the work it takes to build the life that you want to build. And I just don't see it gung ho. I don't see the masses running to address whatever seems to be out of whack. And I never have. And I'm asking the crowd of 9. I'm asking the crowd of 9 why. Oh, we're up to 15. Yay.
And Dan is trying to get in here. Hang on.
Be out of whack. And
there he is. Oh, Dan, you got to kill Facebook in the background.
Turn your Facebook off, dude.
So I think that honestly, from my perspective, and you have seen this, I've seen it, where you are at a conference, maybe you're the speaker, or you're just at a conference. I've been to Grant Cardone's conferences several times, and you see a lot of the same people there, and you don't see their life really progressing. And it's not because Grant doesn't teach. Grant changed my life about 6 years ago because I took what he taught me and I took massive action on it. I took massive action. Mm-hmm. So, but most people don't do that. Most people are conference addicts. they'd rather be like, I went to a Tony Robbins event and walked on hot coals and came out unscathed, and I feel really, really, really powerful and empowered right now. But the largest percentage of those people won't continue doing what it takes to get unstuck.
I was that guy. And first of all, Glenn, Susan, it's great to see you. Ken, it's great to meet you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was that guy. I was that guy who went to conferences and learned. And one of my favorite phrases is that you get paralysis by analysis. And I think I had so much information in my head that I literally was just paralyzed. And there was a point in time where I just said, enough. I'm going to take what I have. I'm going to take baby steps, just one step. Like, it's like you have so much going on in your head. Sometimes it's difficult just to be able to step out and go, bam, and you just take one step forwards, and then take massive execution. And just like you said, Ken, and just go at it, like grind and do it.
Yeah. I mean, and I think there's some kind of a trigger or something. Christy says they may not know they can. It can feel different and unfamiliar. I agree with that. But like when, you're at a Tony Robbins event or Grant Cardone, and you've got, people like what was the one comedian that he actually gave an incredible speech, Kevin Hart. He gave an unbelievable speech at Grant Cardone's thing, and it was really empowering. And the chances that, and he gave a lot of great tips, but there's this thing I know that like Michael Williams just said, the 20% rule. I think it's even less. It's probably more like the 10% rule.
So can Michael tell us about the 20% rule, or can you, Ken? I don't know what rule he's referring to, and forgive me. I wanted to eat my dinner without leaving the group. So
go ahead, eat away. So the 20% rule is that 20% of the work is done by by 80% of the people.
Oh, okay. I have heard that.
20%.
It's the other way around. It's 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people.
Yeah. And yeah, that, sorry. I need to eat my dinner too. But you get and you get caught up in the moment of getting excited about these things, but then you get home and you get back to the mindset that made you want to go to that conference in the first place. And that was, I'm stuck and I don't know what to do. And that's why I think this virus, quite frankly, I think it's leveling the playing field. I think that people are they're going to be forced, or you're going to starve. Nobody's going to save you. One check for $1,200 may feel really good for a couple of months. Maybe. I can't imagine $1,200 going further than a couple of months for most people.
No, I think it winds up serving as bubble gum on a flat tire.
Right.
$1,200 is bubble gum on a flat tire for sure.
It is.
And here's the warning. I once was talking to an entrepreneur. So I recently bought an electronics store, and I was talking to a good friend of mine, Andy, and he said, Dan, he said, I was talking to him about this minimum wage hike from New Jersey went to $10 an hour, $11 an hour is where we're at now. And then each year in January, it's going to go to $12 an hour and 13, 14, all the way up to $15 an hour. And I was just like, for me, my people are paid better than that already. But for a lot of people, they're complaining about this. He says, you know what, Dan? He says, that is the best thing that can possibly happen to you. And I said, why is that? He says, because think about the lower economic groups. He says, what do they do with their money the moment they get it? He says, they go spend it. And he says, so that's actually good for your business. And I thought about that for a minute. And for a moment I went, yeah, but I started thinking about it. And it's what you were just saying now, Ken. It's sad because what's going to happen to the bulk of the people. Let me backtrack for a second. When people win the lottery who are not good stewards of the money in the first place, they end up more broke than they did before they had it, because they couldn't be steward. The Bible says this. They couldn't be stewards of little. So when they're given a lot, there's a challenge, right? So I hope that if anybody's listening to this who's in that boat, that you take that money that you didn't earn, that you didn't have, and stick that in there for a rainy day. That rainy day may be now, but don't go blow it all. Right. Try to stretch it out a little bit. If you're counting on that, don't just go do what I just said and go blow it.
Yeah. I want to throw something in.
Yes.
Here. So I love that question. Why if you were to roll up a wheelbarrow full of help, why do we not take it? And I think that there's something about getting comfortable being uncomfortable, right? We are uncomfortable with new things. We're uncomfortable with the things that we need to be doing. We don't like them, or it's not comfortable for us. So get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yep.
And that's if you're that I love that premise so much. And I think that do something on that list. I mean, go organize a drawer, or, go start something. I think we get overwhelmed. I think we get overwhelmed by the wheelbarrow. So don't be overwhelmed by what's out there for you. Pick something. And I think massive action, yes, go get massive action, but start with something. And
may I add on to that, Susan? Because I love what you're saying, and it's so true. There are times when I maybe, I'm on a live stream with Glenn Morshower till 3:00 in the morning, and I'm just too tired to make a list of what I need to get done the next day, right?
Yeah.
And so notice how I just used him as a scapegoat. Did you see that?
I liked it.
Well done. This is going to be our last conversation anyway, so go ahead.
He's threatened me. That's like the 5th time he's threatened me with that. Yeah, one of these times he's like, I'm going to prove it. So so, but no, I mean, there's times when I'll just forget, or I'll be too tired or whatever, and I don't. But when I make a list, and this is something I learned when I first got sober 17 and a half years ago. I was overwhelmed with life. Like, I went from, I heard that the word sober was an acronym for son of a bitch, everything's real, because you no longer can live in this anesthetized state and you have to feel everything. And I'm like, this sucks, man. And I told Glenn, I used this one night, I couldn't find my ass with both hands and a flashlight. I mean, I was lost. And so, I had people saying, look, man, just make your bed. That's step one.
Yeah.
Then, go to your kitchen sink and clean the dishes. Don't leave your house, my apartment back then, but don't leave anything in the kitchen sink. Make sure it's all clean and put away and everything is in order. And Glenn talked about this earlier in the show. Make sure that you run the vacuum real quick, give the carpet those nice lines, make it look nice, and do the little tiny things like that. Make a list of everything that needs to be done for the next day and start picking those things off one at a time, and start small. Like you just said, Susan, start with the small things. And as you do that, it literally, it's the strangest thing. But when you do that over a long period of time, it builds this unbelievable amount of self-confidence. Like, I know how to make a bed. Yes,
this is the very school of incrementalism I was referring to.
It is. It is. And she kind of brought that, and but it's so true. So if you're stuck and you're like, I got this $1,200 in, or $3,200, I don't even know how. Like, somebody asked me, did you apply for no, I did not. I've never applied and asked money from the government for anything, and I never will. So, like, I didn't, and I'm not looking. I'm not saying that I'm better than anybody else. I'm not, but I'm just not going to ask the government for money. I don't care if they're giving it away.
Have you seen that video of the he's a rear admiral, and he says, if you want to accomplish something, get up every day and make your bed first thing in the morning. He says, because you've accomplished a task. If you want to change your day, get up out of it. And so I watched that. Someone sent that to me probably 2.5 years ago. And I'm going to tell you that one thing was a turning point for me, and my business took off after that, because I started waking up every single morning, making my bed. And with the exception of the last 3 or 4 days, quite honestly, I've slipped off that bandwagon. I've stopped literally just the last 3 or 4 days. I have been making my bed, and it is amazing. It works.
Glenn talked about this earlier, and he actually brought up the rear admiral guy that said that. And I think that it's Glenn, tell the story from yesterday, if you would. About
which story, Ken? We've had about 500 stories.
About going to bed at 10 o'clock and getting up at 12:30.
Oh, yeah.
What you told me, and I don't think you've said it publicly.
And these are they're real life moments. These are not embellished moments at all. But my sleep has been all over the place. I'm not a problematic sleeper. Now my schedule is a little bit different, because there are no certain hours that I, quote, need to be awake at. It doesn't matter. I can be awake at what hours I want. And that's anytime I'm not on a set for 5 of my 7 days every week. That's true. A lot of people work the 5 and 2. I work the 2 and 5. So I teach on Mondays and Tuesdays, but I teach the entire day. So those days are devoted from the time I wake up until I go to bed at night. I'm teaching in my studio. 13 hours total both days. The other 5 days, I can be on whatever schedule I want and what my body seems to crave, because it's been this way my whole life. And frankly, I love it. I'm not complaining. I really, really celebrate that I am a proclaimed happy and proud night owl. So I love the peace and quiet of the night. And the other day I was on this weird schedule where I wound up going to bed at, I think it was 8 a.m. and I slept from 8 until about 2 p.m., which was a nice 6-hour sleep. That's about 30 minutes more than I usually sleep. I'm usually good to go and fully charged, like a cell phone. You look and it says 100%. I reach my 100% a little quicker than most people. Now, I happen to hold the opinion that the reason that happens is because my life itself is energizing. I want to repeat that. My life itself is energizing. So I'm not only resting up while I sleep, I'm resting up while I live in the daytime, because it's just like an alternator in a car. It is always recharging the battery. So my life is always recharging me. But I finally was tired at 10 o'clock p.m. And I just don't go to bed at that hour. And I knew there was no way it would be for the night. I knew it. But basically, I'm bedding down at 10 for a nap. Who goes to nap at 10 p.m.? Answer, I do. So I laid down to take a nap, and I woke up at 12:45 a.m. fully rested, raring to go. Can't wait to dig into my new day, or continuation of the previous one, which ended 2 hours and 45 minutes ago. And the first order of business was to make my bed again, despite the fact that I'm going to be re-inhabiting the bed to sleep in a matter of just a couple of hours.
Did you just cover Carolyn up? Is that what you did?
No, she was in the front room on the couch. Right? She didn't want to interfere with my nap, and she was watching TV anyway. You know, there's no insecurity there. I crashed out on my own. And the point is, I'm not doing it for show.
Right.
And I'm also not doing it to have it be a talk show item. It's my deal. And I didn't do it so that I could then claim to be the person who had done that on Ken's show. It's just how I live. It is part of the ritual, just as he always meditates. I also meditate. And that's part of an extension of my meditation, is the making of the bed. So here I am now at 5 minutes to 1, making my bed for the day. And doing it neatly, by the way. I'm talking tight, military, like hospital corners, the whole deal. And you would have thought I was having some sort of commanding officer come in, and he was going to give me a test on how tight the sheets were, because it is now I'm really ready to go online. Now I'm really ready to make a difference in what I'm doing. It's just part of my diet. And now here's the really, really sick part. I do it when I'm in a hotel.
So do I.
I know everybody says wait for maid service. I don't allow maid service in my hotel room. I'm much too private for that. It's one of the disciplines that a lot of times you acquire when your face is known. I don't want them digging in my luggage. Yep. I don't want people talking about who's staying in the room. And so I put a do not disturb sign as the first order of business when I check into a hotel, and it stays there until I leave, no matter how many days I'm there. What I will do is ask for towels every few days. And if I'm there weeks at a time, I will let them come in and make the bed with new sheets. If I'm on location for, say, 6 weeks, but I stay in the room when they do that. So yeah, just for my own peace of mind, I even make my hotel room bed.
Yeah.
And it feels great.
Susan, what habit, like, do you have a specific habit you do that like triggers some sort of massive action or action in general in your daily habit or weekly habit?
I do take small things. I mean, if I have big goals, I love setting monster goals, but I don't like being overwhelmed by them. So I will just start doing a piece of it. And I'm loving some of these comments. When that Christy says, when you can start and say at the end of the day, I've done enough, you're free. Too many people get in a place that they've not done enough, and that becomes their story and drains their energy. And so, I mean, I just start something. I'm one of those annoying people that can do 25 things at once and do it. So if, I've got a lot of projects, but I like to get things done on multiple things and not overwhelm myself and do as much as I can. And so I end up doing an enormous amount of things every day. But I end up resting, enjoying, I was standing outside. It was beautiful here in Salt Lake City today. And I was standing out there and just sitting in the sun, and some people walked by and they were just like are you enjoying the sun? I'm like, yeah, I kind of was. And I was just standing there. And so, yeah, I mean, I love that question because I think massive action, I love taking massive action, but I love not being overwhelmed by, feeling overwhelmed. I don't like that. So good to see you, Dan McCoy.
I know, Susan.
Ever.
It's too long, my dear. Too long.
That's
You're
awesome.
muted, Glenn.
Okay, can you guys imagine somebody sitting on the side of the road selling corks? And that's all they're selling is just these corks, like a cork out of a bottle. And people go up and go, "Hi, what's that you're selling there?" And it's corks. What? And that's all you're selling? Yep. Why are you just selling corks? Well, I'm selling them so that people like you will shove them in their mouth and stop talking to me.
Did you just make that up just now?
I did, and maybe it needs a rewrite.
It's close. Pretty good.
It's close, she said.
Am I almost there with that story? Maybe punch it up a little bit.
Well, hey,
Man, listen, my buddy. Go ahead.
Glenn loves it when I do this. I'm about at the end of my my live streaming capabilities tonight.
Understood. Let me close with a story from Ron Schock. He says he never trusted the fella that was selling live shrimp 10 miles outside of Lubbock on the side of the road. And he also says, man, he says, do you know, I was driving through rural Kansas one time, and he said I was en route to a gig. He's a comedian friend of mine. And he said, and lo and behold, I see this fella out there on the side of the road selling van seats. Seats for a van. And he said, I turned to my wife, Myrtle. He said, I turned to my wife. I got to turn my screen up. And he goes, Myrtle, he goes, this van is getting to be damned uncomfortable driving, standing up. So by God, if you see anybody who happens to be selling van seats.
Oh my God.
That is a fantastic place to end.
Wow. Wow.
Well, we're friends on Facebook, you and me.
We are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So listen, I first off, Glenn, I love you, dude. I love doing these shows with you, and it's been a blast doing this. So I want to continue helping and giving back to the world as much as we can.
I'm not sure that there's anything left to do. I just feel like every question has been answered, and I mean every life question. I think every problem has been solved, and we can call it good and put it in the books because now it's just up to people to do the work. But I've enjoyed being a part of these panels.
Yeah.
And thank you.
We're going to continue.
I know that was sarcasm.
Oh, I was like, I got your number, man. I'll stalk you on the phone.
Look at Dan McCoy. Does he not look like he'd be my son or what?
Yes.
My son or my baby brother or something.
Glenn, do you remember when Heather and I came out to your studio in LA in West Hollywood?
Yeah.
And we had I think you had a couple of students who actually thought I was your son. Is this your son?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and I terminated them from the school.
Oh my God.
All right, I'm going to say goodnight. Hey, Susan, I love you. It's been too long.
Susan, it was great meeting you. Dan, nice meeting you.
Likewise, Ken.
Ken, we'll talk. Have a good weekend, brother. God bless.
Hey, thank you, guys. We'll see y'all. And thank you to everybody who did share and who's been on here for the duration. That's awesome. Thank you.
Indeed. Good night, all.
Love. Good night.
See ya.
See you guys.